Welcome back to another informative and exciting episode of podcast where we cover everything cannabis and hemp. If you haven't subscribed yet to our channel, please do so, as this will help us sustain our channel. And remember to cannabis responsibly at all times. Welcome to another episode of podcast. I am going to be having a discussion, a very interesting discussion with Mr. Bobby all the way in Durban, who is a director of Synergy Wellness. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mo, and good afternoon to all the viewers. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's about time. It's about time.
Yeah, it's been a bit hectic, guys. Sorry, what can I say? I know
Yeah.
this has been a meeting trying to have for a while, eh?
Yes. Bobby, can we please just get into it? Let the viewers know what Synergy Wellness is and how is it different from an online pharmacy or dispensary? How is it different?
Well, fundamentally, it's not really different. What we did at BGF Synergy was BGF Synergy, to start off with, is a group of companies under one consortium. We're a consortium of companies, independent companies within the cannabis industry, consisting of growers, people who test, people who package. We basically formed a supply chain, the whole SAHPRA alarm supply chain that falls within existing pharmaceutical standards. So however you would buy any other pharmaceutical, this is kind of how it's been rolled out. However, having said that, it obviously is a little bit less restricted than, say, if you were selling conventional pharmaceuticals like controlled morphines or scheduled drugs. So, obviously the dangers of cannabis is a whole lot less than, say, morphine or any of the opiate-based prescription drugs. But okay, I digress. Essentially, what we did here is we complied with an existing pharmaceutical model. SAHPRA always had regulations or regulatory structure in place to define the industry and how it should be, how that scheduled substance may be sold. So it's high THC products. So all the products within our supply chain are produced locally, packaged locally, tested locally. There's quite a bit of oversight in terms of SAHPRA. SAHPRA obviously oversees the whole process quite stringently. It is an expensive sector of the industry to get into because the standards are so high. We have to meet EUGMP standards at minimum for export. If we're exporting any of our products, so it's the SAHPRA model has always existed, has been there for some time now, but it's restrictive. So what we did is we formed our consortium or our supply chain, and that includes all the experts, right from, like I say, pharmaceutical testing, pharmaceutical packaging. We have a doctor that consults. So how it works is a patient would either go to our website or pop into one of our stores and would do an application. That application costs 500 Rand, and that would cover your doctor's consultation. Obviously, being a controlled substance, law says that a doctor must prescribe it. However, once the doctor is prescribed that, you will get a medical cannabis card, which is included in that cost. And that medicinal cannabis card, it's not a new concept. It's been around for a while in overseas models. This is largely a cell phone-based e-card, if you wish. So it entitles you to obviously use, possess, purchase cannabis. But the nice thing about it is that because it is a legal substance, we're selling it's sold within the legal sector, it's a lot cheaper and the quality is a lot better. Well, I won't say better because there's a lot of guys growing good prof stuff out there, but essentially it's tested, controlled, and it obviously allows the patient now to legally be in possession of, use, purchase, etc. Either any one of our depots or on online. So a lot of it is, yes, it's online based to allow people to get a little bit of better access, but it's inclusive. So that's the one. That's kind of how it works. That card is it's a once-off payment for that consultation. It's valid for 6 months, so every 6 months. And this is also in terms of pharmaceutical law. The doctor has to review that case. So whatever your condition may be, whether it be insomnia, pain, or whatever you would need your medical cannabis for, you can get a prescription legally now and go and purchase it legally at any one of our approved outlets. Or I'll go into more detail in terms of other outlets and how it's progressing, or what the plan is going forward in terms of other outlets, other chemists, other shops that are not outside of our franchise of the BGF Synergy Group. So, yeah, that's kind of how it would work for the patient. In terms of BGF Synergy, when we got to the point where we had established the supply chain, we had two choices. One of them was we could obviously keep that for ourselves and open our own stores and only benefit our own companies, which to us was a bit of goes against our protocols and policies of how we do. We decided to resist cannabis that were perhaps operating or are perhaps operating within a grey area within the legal market, still selling under the counter, and we know there's plenty of them. So we said, well, look, let's open this out to those smaller businesses, those established businesses, mom and pop businesses that are doing it, and say, hey guys, we will allow you to distribute legal cannabis at a lucrative lucrative sort of benefit. So essentially that shop would become a dispensary, wouldn't change the branding or anything. Your shop has its own branding, but what would happen is you would now be able to, under a compliant license or permit, now distribute legal, locally grown cannabis. And obviously, there are quite good profit share margins in terms of that. So it's kind of our way of giving back to the industry and saying, hey, you guys are all going to be going down the drain as soon as the law starts kicking in and they start closing people down. So let's see if we can get you compliant. Let's keep you surviving. Let's at the same time then provide a service to patients. So that process is open now for application. So we encourage any established businesses. Obviously, we are looking for certain criteria, proven track record, obviously a good thing, registered taxpaying entities, because at the end of the day, it's about contributing to the economy of our country. So
okay,
that's available. So that's where we're going with this.
Alrighty then. So you spoke on a lot. I'm just going to touch base on something, just taking you back a little bit. Can you explain what EUGMP compliance is? Because I know you just spoke of how you guys are exporting the cannabis. How are you doing that? What's the process of one doing that? If you don't mind explaining that.
Well, EUGMP is quite a high standard. It's a European standard of what they called a good manufacturing practice. In other words, how their product is produced, how it's grown, how it's handled, how it's packaged, how it's tested. Obviously, the global standards are a lot higher than we have in our current emerging market. Even getting local GMP is a fairly high standard compared to how it has been up until now. So if you're producing a substance for human consumption, and this is how health regulatory bodies worldwide look at it, including our own SAHPRA, is if you're producing something for human consumption, there's got to be a standard. There's got to be strict manufacturing practices or agricultural practices on how that product or raw product for that product is produced. So EUGMP standard is an international standard, which there are a couple of our local growers that are already in the process of going through achieving EUGMP standard. It's very much it's quite a long process. It takes about 2 years to get it. And obviously it's stability testing is critical to see whether that's a consistently sustainable facility that can over a period of time produce a consistent product. whether it's growing a plant or whether it's producing a medicine or an edible. Now, those, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're producing something for human consumption, it's regulated. There isn't another industry that isn't regulated. Even the cell phone that we use is regulated in terms of what its emissions can, etc. So we know this.
Yeah.
So
So
the pipe dream is, yeah.
Sorry to cut you. So basically, what you're saying is that the EU official will be the one to come to South Africa to make sure that the facility is compliant according
100%.
to their. So does this mean that you have to fly them in and pay for all of that, or what happens?
Well, sometimes it depends on the customer. Essentially, how it works is that when the Europeans, or using Europeans as a sort of a benchmark here, because we deal a lot of the time with European companies. European companies don't come here on a shopping trip. They don't come to see what the growers are growing and what they can buy. They come here to establish whether that facility can consistently produce a strain over a period of time exclusively for them. Mm-hmm. Exclusivity is big in global markets. They don't want to be selling a strain that their competitors are selling, whether they're manufacturing it into medicine or not. Mm-hmm. Exclusivity to strains is critical in the overseas market. They want to come here and say to the grower, there's a contract for 5 years. We're happy with your facility that it meets the standard. During this process, we will help you with that EUGMP process. Mm-hmm. That's the one scenario. The other scenario is you're really getting companies or growers that are.
I think I lost you there. Hello? I don't know what's happening, but I think I lost you there. Now
okay.
You're back.
Where did you?
Yes. Now you're back. It sounded like you were on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, we were probably load shedding somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah. So coming back to the EU standard, yeah. Those guys essentially come here and they're looking for facilities, production facilities, growing facilities that do meet that EUGMP standard or are already for that standard.
Okay.
For them to start that test. Yeah.
Okay.
So awesome. It's going to take time, but it's getting there, progressing.
Oh, okay, awesome. And then now let's talk about the doctors that you guys have that are the ones prescribing the flower to your patients. What requirements is needed for a doctor to be able to do that? Is there some sort of education that one needs to go through to be able to prescribe that cannabis?
With doctors, it's not really so much when it comes to medicines and that, it's not really a course that they're going through. It's more of a protocol update in terms of adding a scheduled substance to their protocol, which they then go through that scheduled substance. Now, our doctor is Dr. Marion Tupi. He's quite a well-known cannabis doctor, and he's registered with SAHPRA as a cannabis consulting doctor or physician. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of like a specialist. It's not to say that a doctor, your GP can prescribe it, but it would follow the same process as if your doctor was referring you to another specialist. So if he was referring to, say, to a bone specialist or a pediatrician, this is just specifically a referral to a specialist doctor within our organization that can then do an online consultation with the patient, prescribe what needs to be prescribed, and authorize them to have that cannabis card as a registered patient. So the cannabis card registration database is overseen by SAHPRA, and it's issued by SAHPRA. So it kind of complies with the existing industry protocols like any other substance.
And just to be clear, the card does work in South Africa, because there's some people who are to believe that it does not actually work in South Africa. It is a system that has been put in place for the international market, but not this local one. So just to clarify, it does work in South Africa. So let's say, like I asked one of the gentlemen that I was interviewing recently, if one is driving and is stopped by the cops and you produce that card, then and you have cannabis on you, the cops will leave you alone because you are now producing that card.
100%.
But then the card,
100%.
but the card needs to be linked to the packaging of the cannabis, isn't it?
Yes, it's all there. Obviously, it's going to be a very difficult one to police. But traditionally, you don't take your Disprin out of, or your grandpa powders out of the grandpa packaging and put it in a plastic bag, because you are going to get problems at a roadblock. First thing the cops are going to think is this is cocaine or some illegal substance. Hence, packaging is very important. Packaging contains vital information both for the patient and for any other person that is duly authorized or legalized to check that information. So they're 100% protected with that. I would say if you are buying that prescription medicine, keep it in, whether it's cannabis or whether it's any other medicine, keep it in its original packaging. But what you've been told is untruth. It works. There's two ways we do it. The card, the permanent card system for the local South African citizens or people resident in South Africa is already active. It does work. I'm going to give you some websites to follow for more information a little bit later on down the line. Maybe you can put it in the links. But that system works better for South Africans than it does for internationals. In fact, internationals, how we work it on a voucher system. So the foreigner might come in here and might be here for a couple of days, and he will then approach our same platforms or forums, go into our shops, he buys a voucher, which is cleared by the doctor for purchase of X amount of cannabis that they can then use. I think the restriction is 180 grams, which is quite a lot of cannabis.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it does 100% cover you legally. Obviously, we have engaged with other stakeholders like SAP, law enforcement, Department of Health, even right up as far as the Office of the Presidency. They're well aware of the processes. They are involved in oversight as to what we're doing. And at the moment, what we're doing here is a model. It is going to have glitches. It is going to have little holes, which we will sort out as the model sort of progresses. Once we've got that, once we're 100% certain, look at this, everything's working, SAPRA happy, government happy, and everybody's happy, then this whole industry is going to open on that level in terms of pharmaceuticals, what it already has, to other players.
Okay.
We created a whole supply chain right from seed to sale, and it's compliant with regulatory bodies. So that's a simple. We became Mr. Farmer. Can't beat them. You got to join them.
Yeah, that's true, right? That's what some of us ended up doing. Okay. So what is it that you're busy with within the cannabis industry? Because I know you're quite a busy man in the cannabis industry, and I know a lot of people. Yes, you are. So what is it that you are busy with? You are very modest, but just that you are busy.
No rest for the wicked. I'm just a humble man doing the right thing, I think. At the moment, I'm busy consulting with government stakeholders and research institutes. I know that there is a little bit of inside whispering in my ear, and I can probably pass it on to the viewers, is that KZN particularly are very focused on getting this industry off the ground. So I'm busy consulting with them quite a lot lately. It's been the last couple of months in dialogue with various governments and NGOs, community groups regarding the rollout of the cannabis industry. So I do know that KZN state of the province is coming up now shortly. I think it's on Wednesday, where they will be making announcements in terms of the rollout of the industry in a couple of sectors. One being the hemp and industrial use sector for biomass and plastics and textiles, industrial, non-human. That's one sector that's being addressed. Government are very keen to get involved with local, business, local business, cannabis business, and other stakeholders to start developing infrastructure to process hemp products into usable materials that can be processed into goods. whether it's composites, biofiber, plastics, nutrition. There's a whole, and this is all non-THC stuff. You don't need any special licenses. Growers need a hemp license. Hemp license is not expensive. It's less than 5,000 rand at the moment. So you can get it in a couple of weeks. I mean, it's pretty simple. A lot of other problems facing the industry, obviously lack of resources, farm implements, etc., etc. So we're sort of designing a model where the entire supply chain benefits each other. For instance, if we establish a cooperative in, say, Nongoma, where people can bring their product they've grown or their harvest, and it gets graded, tested, and they get paid for that product. That product then goes processed into semi-processed biomass. So now it allows other smaller companies to start opening hempcrete product companies because they now got a sustainable supply. It allow, for instance, hemp seed oil. Hemp seed oil has nutritional value. If you've got a co-op that's producing hemp seed oil out of hemp seed that has been farmed by local farmers, then turned into products, there's so many different opportunities in that supply chain. And then obviously spin-off industry. You don't have to be involved in the cannabis industry. You don't have to smoke or grow it to be involved. For instance, testing. For instance, transport. I think there's only one company at the moment that is authorized to legally transport cannabis as a scheduled substance. So there's so much opportunity. Hempcrete. People can now go to the co-op and buy bulk semi-processed hemp and open a brickyard, or open a composite factory that produces hemp roof sheeting or hemp panels. I'm just using two or three sort of examples here. There's cosmetics. People can make cosmetics out of it. If you're operating outside of the THC cannabis industry, there's a huge amount of opportunities, but there's largely the big misconception or misunderstanding of how the cannabis industry works. There's this misconception you're going to grow your own weed and then be able to sell it to somebody willy-nilly. It's never going to happen. It doesn't happen in any other supply chain, you name it, sugar cane, any other cash crop. There's a regulated body that can control that market and ensure that it is sustainable, because if we don't regulate, sustainability is out the door, because you're going to get rogue players coming into the industry, gangsters coming into the industry. So it's very critical that the industry is properly regulated, properly rolled out, and has transparent oversight as to what's going on in the industry, therefore benefit everybody. I mean, our model includes even our distribution model in terms of dispensary. That includes clinics, it includes old age homes, it includes traditional healers, it includes Rastafarians, it includes rural growers, traditional growers. So it's a very inclusive model. And allows opportunity for serious cannabis business people to enter into the business without having to spend an arm and a leg. We kind of just built the road now, and we're saying, right, everybody can get the chance to use that road.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're busy with at the moment.
It's a lot that you're busy with. Yeah, you are a very, very busy man. No wonder it's so difficult for one to get hold of you. But I appreciate that you do take my calls when I do call. I really do appreciate that.
I've always got time for you, Mo. Sometimes I have to scratch it and make it, but I've always got time for you.
And I thank you so much for making time. More so for this interview. I'm sure a lot of viewers have learned a lot now as to what it is that you guys are doing. And that they should actually get onto your website and see if they could not be part of your clients or your members, so they can get the prescription card, so they can cannabis.
What I'm going to do is, after the call, I'm going to WhatsApp you 2 website addresses. The one is for your patient portal, where patients can go and register and apply for and go through that process. It doesn't take long. It takes about 48 hours to complete. And the other one is for any interested businesses, existing health shops, cannabis shops that are already in business, are paying tax, to have the opportunity of becoming a dispensary, a legal dispensary, or a compliant dispensary, as we call it. Legal is such a broad term. It's also not a difficult, long process. There is a cost involved. SAHPRA obviously do charge licensing fees for these, but we've made it or structured it in such a way that it's affordable. We structured it so that we kind of take the financial risk of it more than the smaller operator. So yeah, it's a really good system, and it does allow anybody to enter into the industry, people that are serious about it. So yeah.
Okay. I'll be sure to share that as soon as you share it with me. We'll definitely put it in after the interview. But I thank you so much, Bobby, for giving me time.
You're most welcome.
For giving us as much information as you did. It's always a pleasure having a discussion with you. And I wish you nothing but a beautiful day today.
Thank you, and to you too, my and the viewers. Peace, love, and happiness.
And on that note, please do remember to cannabis responsibly at all times.